Hello, my friends. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for being here today. Today, I am going to be talking about the work that I do as an Akashic Records reader. So, welcome to everybody who's showing up right now. Hello. This all started for me in September of last year, so just a few months ago. I had a dream about an ancient Egyptian goddess by the name of Seshat. She's a human goddess. She was known as the feminine counterpart to Thoth. And Thoth was the one who gave language to humankind. But what a lot of people don't know is that Seshat was the one who originally received all of that information. Seshat received this information and she gave it to Thoth. And then Thoth gave that system of language to humankind. But as for her, I believe that she received this information psychically because she also kept the Akashic Records. And to keep the Akashic Records, you would need to have a psychic skill to do that. And so in reference to that, I would probably describe that as claircognizance. And that is the skill that I use when I am engaging with information in the Akashic Records. Mariana asks, how do you learn about how to enter the Akashic Records? So I learned about this through my mentor who gave me an attunement. So this attunement was a process that I had to follow over multiple days while I was in my certification process. The attunement that I received was just so that I would have familiarity with people's soul groups, so that way I can identify them accurately for people. Now, your soul group would be the group that your soul originated into incarnation. So when you first had your physical experience of life, you would have been with this one group that has these particular traits. Now, that does not mean you can't move on and spend a lot of time with other soul groups. And a soul group could be something like the idea of star races and things like that, or beings that come from outside of this solar system, or perhaps even outside of this galaxy, or outside of this, what we know as this dimension or this universe. So if there are souls that I read for that come from way outside of anything that we can identify with human language, I would explain that. I only would see that once I'm working with that client. So accessing the Akashic Records has a lot to do with intention. You don't need to actually physically be able to visualize it. All people have a right to access their own Akashic record with their own intention. And that does not mean that you can access the records for anyone else. If someone asks me to access their record for them, I am given their permission to do that with their conscious awareness. However, that does not always mean that the soul wants to be read. And I've found this in 2 clients that I have tried to read for so far. Their soul did not allow me permission to read their record. Now, that doesn't mean that there's something wrong or that there's some problem or something bad happening. I was talking about learning about how to enter the Akashic Records. So I did not learn this from a book. I learned this from my mentor. My mentor has been teaching this for about 20 years. It's a highly cohesive and accurate system, and it doesn't require that you are already a medium or something like that. You don't already have to have a psychic gift. What I've learned is that when you start working with the records, your gifts open up to you, okay? So I've become more claircognizant because of working in the records, and I can feel my crown chakra opening every time that I access the records for someone. So I can tell that my crown chakra is opening because it feels like a funnel, or like it's like a lotus flower blossoming at the top of my head. And I feel information flowing into my head. So I know that there are books that people can read to learn how to access the records for themselves. I haven't read those books. I received direct mentorship. For months, I've been like deep in this whole learning process to get my certification. I've been working with clients, and the work itself has changed me. It has changed me so much as a person, and I think that a lot of people could probably see the difference if they look at the kind of person that I was before mid-September of last year and the kind of person that I am now, I feel kind of like I've been initiated. I don't only do Akashic Records readings. I also do one-on-one sessions, either half hour or 1 hour. And it's all because of having this dream in September about an ancient Egyptian goddess I didn't know anything about. And so the background to that is that the very next day after I had this dream, I was like, I need to go out into the world and find out information. So I'm over here like Google searching, and it's like, oh, you know, she was Thoth's wife. No, she was his sister. No, she was his child. No, she's just a scribe. And then guess what? Guess what I find out? I find out that the only reason that the roles are so confusing is over the course of time. She started off as wife, and then she got demoted because of the patriarchy, because she did accounting. And when you track all of the spoils of war for Pharaoh and all of the wealth, and you're tracking all those kinds of things, when greed starts coming into play, those women get erased. So that's what happened to her. And that's why a lot of people don't know anything about her. And they're like, oh no, Thoth was the one who invented the hieroglyph. No, that's not actually true. It was her. She was the one who received it. She received all of it psychically. This is a symbol of a star. It's a 7-pointed star. It's not just a plant leaf. It also is a plant leaf. Hieroglyphs have many, many meanings. That plant leaf is a healing plant. It's a form of plant medicine whose name I can't mention, but those of you who have a garden might know what I'm talking about. She opens the doors of heaven for you, and she assists in healing for women. This is also a rough kind of a symbol of female anatomy, okay? Special little button up here leads to an explosive climactic event and an aha moment. Yes, that's what I'm learning about her. And also here's another thing. Okay, the palm rib here that she's using to mark time. See this down here? That's a tadpole. Tadpole on top of, this is called a shenu or a shen ring. Shen is like representative of the circle of life. The shen encompasses the all within itself. But here's what I really want to say about the Akashic Records. When I read for people, there's so many people that feel like they don't have a gift, or they feel like they're just messed up fundamentally. And then I read their records and I find out, no, this is just a karmic pattern, and you can clear that energy intentionally. You can enter your intention into your own Akashic record, and that is what I do for my clients. I help them to understand how they can change their own blueprint of their soul. And when you know exactly how the karmic patterns were formed and what other information may be included with that karmic pattern, you can very easily change your karma. And you can change your karma instantly, just like that. It's not just about setting the intention. It's once you have awareness, you also have responsibility. And with responsibility comes power. So when I give you responsibility, I give you your power. But it's not something that you need me for. It's your birthright. You're supposed to be able to be your own spiritual authority over your own life. That's the point. I help people to have awareness of that, of how powerful you really are, and just how precious you really are, how rare you really are. And I look at things like the soul group of origination. When you first incarnated into a physical experience, what's the group that you incarnated into, and what are the traits of that group? Because that helps us to understand what our gifts are. What is your spiritual gift? It relates to your energy centers that are part of you. They're part of the soul. Like your blueprint has building blocks to it, and everyone has a combination of 8 different energy centers to the soul. It's sort of similar to the chakra system. I look at the energy centers of the soul. They're like the building blocks to the soul itself. And these energy centers of your soul, you could kind of find a parallel with the energy centers of the physical body. However, even though you will have all 8 energy centers that make up the whole of your soul, you're usually going to have 1 or maybe 2 energy centers that take up a whole lot of energy in the whole of the spectrum. Meaning if you have like just 1 primary energy center, you're probably going to be drawing almost half of all of your energy through that 1 energy center. So that is how you know what your gift is. What is your soul's gift? Now, this is not the same as a psychic gift. It could be something like love is the gift. Now, if divine love is the gift, I will give you an example of what the energy centers will be. I'm going to tell you about mine. My energy center is about divine love. And divine love, it feels like, yes, those hands, those healing hands. Because when you're in a state of when you're living in that energy of divine love, you are able to hold unconditional presence for other people, to see them in their wholeness, and to see them as a divine being, and to help them to recognize that for themselves. Not everybody has that gift, but you would know it if it was your gift, because your whole life would look like that. And it would seem kind of like it comes naturally to you, to the point that you take it for granted, to the point where you don't feel like it's really that special. But not everybody can do what you do. And if I try to do something that is not in alignment with my gift, like if I try to go and do, like I'm going to be in the energy center of divine power, which is not my gift, but I do know somebody whose gift that is. Someone in their own power is more likely to go and live according to whatever they want that makes them feel powerful. And that's what they should be doing. So somebody in the energy center of divine power, you could probably relate that to the solar plexus chakra. They would be more likely to do something that someone in the heart would not do. Like, so for me, I do spiritual counseling, and I help people to, I hold presence for people so that they can receive their healing from themselves. I don't do anything to people. I help people to reconnect to their own heart. And that in itself can restore all kinds of soul fragmentation from trauma. And I have some history with trauma, but I'm not going to be somebody who's out, driving donuts in an empty intersection at 3 a.m, right? That would be somebody whose gift aligns with that, like power, personal power, doing what you want, right? That could look like that for a person. And that means that if they're living in their power, they're living in their gift, and they're doing exactly what their soul wants to do. That doesn't mean that it's bad, doesn't mean that it's good. It means you're in alignment with receiving energy from the source at its maximum. If you make choices that are out of alignment with your own energy centers, you're going to be reducing and restricting and blocking the flow that you receive of that energy from source. And so then you'll start to feel more drained and depleted, and you'll notice energetically that you don't have as much to work with, or you don't have the freedom to make the kind of choices that you otherwise would have. You have less choices available to you when you're not receiving 100% of your energy from source. When you're not receiving energy from source, you're unconsciously drawing that energy through other people and their access to source. And that is very draining for you, and it's also draining for them. But this is something that a lot of us do unconsciously. We're not doing it deliberately to drain other people. It's not like we're doing energy vampirism or something like that. It's more like, you know, you would be drawing on somebody else's energy if you were always calling them on the phone and asking them to validate your emotions, because you're not drawing that energy through yourself and your own access to source, if that makes sense. So that's just one example of how that might play out. But these energy exchanges are a very normal part of human life. And all of us, we do many versions of this. It's not like you're always going to be 100%, you're drawing 100% of energy from source, just, you know, constantly. It's an energetic exchange, and there is a balance to it. It sounds like maybe somebody used a filtered word, or they used a not nice word and they got blocked. So if you come into my live and you behave in an unfriendly way, then there's a consequence to that, and that's that the app will not let you talk to me. So if you show up in my space, show up in good faith and you'll be just fine. I'm just answering some questions about the Akashic Records while we're here. And I've been doing this work since I was more or less psychically initiated to get into this. But before that, I was an accountant. I used to be a database administrator. I like to make art and music. I make a lot of art with sacred geometry. And apparently all of the things that I'm interested in are also things that this figure did. Sashat kept the Akashic Records. And in my life, I've done all of these other things in my career, but I didn't do that. I was very interested in getting into this once I had that experience, and it took me a couple of months to complete my certification process. I was mentored by a woman who has been teaching this for more than 20 years, and she still teaches it today. I have read for more than a dozen people already, and the work is very deep and profound, and it's very life-changing. I do other readings that are not just Akashic readings, like I do half-hour or hour-long sessions for people, and we talk about anything that might be what you would be interested in speaking about in your spiritual development and growth. I am an amateur astrologer. I've been way into studying astrology for more than 10 years. And I've been into the tarot, the system of the tarot, for more than 10 years. I also created a YouTube playlist called Keys to the Tarot that I made as a free resource. I did that for disability justice because not everyone can physically handle cards. And also anti-capitalistic justice because not everybody can afford to buy a tarot deck and learn from all the books that I've been able to learn from. So I put all of the resources together, all of the public domain books about the tarot that are in the Library of Congress and so on, and very old books about the tarot. I compiled all of this information into a database. Keys to the Tarot is a free resource that you can use, and if you wanted to learn the tarot, it's a really great place to learn from or to get started on your journey. And if you hit shuffle playlist, then you can do a reading for yourself. So how about that? You don't need to hire other experts in the field to do that. What I do want to tell you is, like, let's say that you're on TikTok Live and you get a tarot reading. If you make notes of like, okay, these were the cards and this was the interpretation, you could go even deeper with that and learn even more that might give you an aha moment about the reading. So you can go on a much deeper level with that if you want to. Anyway, it's not all totally about the Akashic Records, but if any of you have questions, please do ask away. Or you could ask me questions about other things. You could ask me questions about, like, why, Rebecca, do you use the alien hands? And ask me anything, really. Anyway, I'm so happy that you've all come here. You have the same alien hand Yes. I'm going to soothe your aura right now with the alien hands. Yes. Feel the aura get soothed. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was doing the alien hands with, I called this is my puff sleeve jacket that I picked up. Oh wait, what did I call it? My prismatic holographic puff sleeve jacket that I picked up in Octorus. And then this one is just my alien hand with stigmata, because I had to, I like to draw on my magic screen with the pencil, but I don't want it to look like a pencil. I want it to look like a hand is drawing on the screen. And so my inner child is super, super happy about that. And I just do whatever she wants when it's on magic screen time. And aside from that, I'm all serious and like, yeah, wow, you did accounting. Yes, I do soul level accounting now. I will balance your books and I will balance your Akashic records. I will help you to reconcile your karmic patterns and your bank account. How about that? But it's like, you can't be in a space of judgment of other people if you're going to do this kind of work. And we also have to recognize all of us in our soul's history, which is massive. It's massive. It goes way further back than you could imagine. Most of us take some lifetimes to work out these negative karmic patterns that we might have. I'm not going to be reading for you from any of my past clients, but I can tell you about mine. I had a really, really traumatic breakup 10 plus years ago, and I could not move on from it. I could not let go of it. I felt like something is horribly, horribly wrong in the universe. This doesn't feel like it is supposed to be this way. I don't feel like I'm supposed to be in this situation. And I was like, what's going on? How and why is this happening? And that was why I sought out a reading. And it wasn't even that I knew I needed a reading of my Akashic records. I reached out to a close friend of mine who's also very psychically gifted. And I said, I need help. And I don't really know what to do. What do you think? And he said, you should meet my friend Susan. She will read your Akashic records. So she read my records, and she didn't know anything about me. She didn't know anything about the history or the relationship or any of that stuff. She didn't know jack about me beyond just the data that she needed to perform the reading for me. And she was able to reveal for me, when she looked up the answer to my question, she found that it was connected to a past life karmic pattern that I was carrying into this life with that person. And she explained to me, this is the origin story of this negative karmic pattern. And what does that mean? Negative karmic pattern. I'll explain it after I get to this end of the story time. Okay, so she explained to me basically a mirror image reflection of what had happened. A mirror image reflection of what had happened in my relationship in my present life. And she said, this is what happened in your past life. But you were in the role of, you did this awful stuff to your spouse and to your family. And your spouse never let it go. And in fact, her mother was so mad at you for it. She's been following you around into your current life now, because you are still holding on to soul fragments because of this trauma that you inflicted on your spouse. And for her to tell me, you did this, and this other thing to your spouse. And she did not know that is what my partner in this life had done to me. And she's like, your spouse back then was this person in your life now. And so what's happened back then, you're getting the payback now. It's balancing out the karma. But the reason you can't let go of it is not because of that. It's not because of the balancing that has happened. It's that you actually made a vow. You made a vow to a perceived spiritual authority, like you made a vow to a religious organization or to, whatever your idea of God was in that lifetime. The perception of a spiritual authority figure, if your soul makes a vow to that person or that being, that can become part of your soul's blueprint. And if you, like, let's say you set that intention, I will forever vow to blank. And by the way, you can see what the vow is about. What's the energy of it? I can't maybe read you word for word because I'm reading information at a much higher level than language. When I'm reading it, I'm looking at the energetic statement of these vows. So usually there are things like chastity, obedience, poverty. These are very typical religious vows that someone might take if they join a religious institution. But in my case, it was a vow that I made to this perception of a spiritual authority because I felt so bad about how I had hurt my spouse. And I vowed that I would always, forever, be in that energy. So that vow carried itself forward into this life, and that is why it felt so wrong. It felt so wrong to me to have to let go of that relationship. This is what happens, or what happened in my case. So there was trauma related to that karmic pattern. When trauma happens at the physical level, and this doesn't mean that we're physically injured, it can also be long-term psychological trauma. Okay, so like those of you who may have familiarity with very harmful, psychologically abusive relationships, people with personality disorders, dark triad personality type. Those people, if we get into a relationship with them, that can cause a psychological trauma, and psychological trauma is physical trauma. It will traumatize the physical body because it's brain trauma. Okay, it's not just in your mind. When your neural pathways are fried from being highly stressed out for years, it's trauma. Okay, so that is what happened to my spouse many lifetimes ago, who was my partner in this life currently. And I have discussed that with this person since then. I explained this to him 10 years later. Yes, that same person, I'm back in touch with him again now. And it's only because of this work that I'm doing now that we have been able to heal from this, both he and I. My life is in a very, very different place now. Like, he lives in a different part of the world. I don't know if I'm ever actually going to see him again. But when we have soul level trauma, we have what's called soul loss, or like soul fragmentation. We lose aspects of our soul. And the reason why we do this is because when we are deeply traumatized, we try to energetically amputate that part of our blueprints so that the soul will no longer continue to attract those kind of experiences. This is not something that's happening at a conscious level. This is not something where like you know it and that you're just deciding to do this. It puts us into either a victim and victor type dynamic or a victim and savior type dynamic. So when we have that kind of dynamic with two different people, that means that whoever agrees with this perception that they were either the savior or the victor, they're the person that's holding on to that fragment of the soul. And then the victim is allowing that other person to hold on to that fragment of the soul. But it's not something that you're consciously aware of. And I'll tell you this, there's no way that you would consciously be choosing to attract trauma into your life. Nobody does that. The soul might agree to do things because they feel that it's necessary, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be consciously aware of, because there's no way that you would agree to put yourself through something like that. And so, like, for all of those people who are out there going like love and light only vibes and like you create your own reality, it's like that's very toxic. It's toxic for us to believe that we would have created our own traumatic experiences that other people were involved in. We are co-creating our reality with everyone else who is here with us. And some of these traumatic situations that can happen to us, they're soul level agreements that are made at a very high level that translate themselves down into our third dimensional human life experience without us being consciously aware of it, so that we can constantly balance and rebalance things and do this energetic exchange with other souls. And that is why we see the same souls in our Akashic record again and again. And people who are our family members now could have been our family members back then. They may have had the same role now as they had back then, or they might be reversed. They might be, you could be a parent to a child in this life who would have been your sibling in a past life, where you had one karmic pattern play out. Another thing that I do when I find soul loss and when I find this kind of trauma in someone's Akashic record is I tell my clients how to clear that karmic pattern out of their own record. So it is a process that every single one of my clients would get if they have any kind of agreements, contracts, vows, anything that is restricting, blocking the flow of you from receiving all of your energy from the source. You can clear that stuff from your own record, and you should be able to do that. It is your birthright to be able to do that in your own Akashic record. It's not any more deep than consciously setting the intention and going and repeating that every day for a period of time. I also help my clients to restore soul loss from trauma if that is something that I find in their record. So it's not the same as mental health counseling. That is not what I do. I'm not a mental health counselor, and so I don't give people any kind of medical advice or mental health. I don't pretend to be a mental health care provider. I'm a spiritual counselor. Think of me like I'm a nun. I just don't wear the whole thing, and I'm not Catholic. Yeah. But anyway, is astrology a tool that can help navigate the Akashic records? I haven't used astrology for that. It's more like I'm entering a library and there's a computer terminal that I can search. And that's what it looks like to me. But also, it was already there when I got there, if that makes sense. It's not like I'm making this up in my mind. I was attuned to be able to do that. Can the records help me rename my astrology business? The Akashic records are, how I would describe it is that it's the information that is stored up there is energetic information. It is not connected to language. And that is why I cannot use the Akashic records to get accuracy on names and dates and things like that. Oh yeah, one of the commenters says, ask your spirit guides for a name. That's good advice. If you're in touch with your spirit guides, you can definitely do that. I actually find a lot of success in dream work. I use dream work to get information that I can't otherwise find. And then for other things that I'm not seeing in the Akashic records, which is more energetic information. And it's not names and numbers and things like that. I heard they can be used for creative and business purposes, like ask the records for a name. I think that might be a different modality than what I use. I use the modality that's called soul realignment. So it's not, I haven't gotten to the point of using it for other purposes, but I think that might be something that I pursue with my business in the future. I know that there's a lot to learn, and I'm just getting started. I am just getting started. So I'll probably get there. But what I could recommend is that you can go to my place on the internet. If you go to my profile, there's a link. And if you click on that, you can go to the About Soul Realignment. I do source back to my mentor who trained me. She has a whole practitioner directory there. And that directory, it shows the advanced practitioners. So I think that you may want to find the advanced practitioners. Once you have those lists of names, I think that you may be able to find someone who can help you with that question. You don't have to just go to me. In fact, I'm not going to gatekeep on any of this. Let's see. Have you ever read records for a certain property or land? That is something I have not done. Something that is part of soul realignment. It relates to earthbound souls that attach themselves to a particular land or property. And so if you have an earthbound soul that is attached to your property, that can be energetically cleared. Roctavia is asking, can you only access the Akashic records through meditation? I don't meditate. When I access the Akashic records, I'm not in a meditative state. I'm not channeling. I didn't learn it from a book. And I I didn't learn it from, like, I know that there are books about it. Linda Howe is an author of books about the Akashic Records, and I have not read them. She wasn't the one who trained me to do this. I was trained by my mentor who's been teaching it for more than 20 years. And I learned about her from the woman who read my records more than 10 years ago. Let's see, I have spontaneously accessed the records during meditation, but I didn't know what to do. That is so interesting. I've never spontaneously accessed the records. It's always been intentional for me. But yeah, it's really a very effortless, fast kind of a way of access for me, and it doesn't really feel like I'm using any psychic skill to do it. I use it to get information. I use my nervous system and my fascia to receive either like a true false or a positive negative response. That's really all I'm trying to get. And that is because if I'm using my logical thinking mind to try and interpret any information that I'm getting, I am creating that information in my mind. I'm not receiving it. So I am not mentally engaged with the process at all. I have all of my questions written out in advance, so that way I'm not mentally engaged with the process. And that's very important for accuracy. I'm not the person who's trying to think up a story or make something up. I am more like I'm asking a yes/no question over and over and over again I'm asking different questions. I've seen the dimension where records are housed. It looks like a magical castle. To me, it looks like when I get logged in, so to speak, it looks like I am in a library. It's an upstairs library, so I have to go up to get there, and then the terminal is up there. And that is where I ask all of the questions and get all of the information. I just write it all down, just pages and pages. I'll just get as much information as I can possibly get about that soul's record. And then I prepare it all up. I get the whole entire thing ready for my client. And that's why this takes hours and it can be costly. Like, I had to save my money to get my records read, but it was a one-time experience. So you don't need to keep coming back to me again and again. Like, once you know what your soul level information is and your original blueprint, you don't need to keep asking again. Like, you would already have that information. And all of my clients get a full audio recording of that call, even if the call lasts for 3 hours. That was the longest call that I have ever had, was a 3-hour long reading. But I did a lot of prep work before that reading. So how it works is when my clients book with me, they can only book it out like so many days in advance. You can't book a reading with me and then I read for you the very next day, because it's going to take me time to go and access the soul level information and to be able to do the work, write it down, prepare the session, and then I meet with the client and it's a phone call. Trust me, it's better that way. You don't want to be focused on my face when you're trying to learn about your soul. It's not meaningful to you. When I had my records read, I remember I cried a lot because I was like, I can't believe she's so accurate. And this is very painful to have information about my trauma that I wish I didn't ask about. But in hindsight, it healed me. It was so healing. I felt like I was talking to a family member, even though I had never talked to her before. Yeah, I haven't tried to meditate through it. I'm just like, okay, I have all these questions. I need to get answers. So when I talk about, like, I use my nervous system and my fascia to get the information, a good example to describe what that means would be something like muscle testing. If you've ever heard of muscle testing before, or pendulum dowsing, you can use whatever method works for you, if that's the modality that you want to use. But I don't use the Linda Howe technique. I've learned a little bit about her process. I watched one of her videos where she was talking about it, and she gives like a short guide into the records, and then she just has you hang out in there for a while and just be in the energy of the Akashic Records. But that is not what I'm doing, because I'm not trying to just be in the energy. I'm trying to get the information, and then I clear the information on behalf of my client. If there is negative karma that I find, like negative karmic patterns, or basically this means any kind of any kind of energetic patterns that reduce or block or restrict the flow of energy to you from the source. I clear whatever those blockages are, so that way you're back to what your blueprint's identity was at its point of origination from source. Clients have told me, I had one person describe this as Moldavite for the soul. So if any of you know about how Moldavite crystals can rock your world, that is what the process is like. Yeah, but I don't just do Akashic Records readings. Like, I also have been studying the tarot for, let's see, 13 years or so. I also learned about geomancy a couple of years ago, which is a Renaissance divination from Africa. So that would be a good system for getting a yes/no answer, but geomancy would be more like fortune-telling divination, rather than telling you an answer to what already is. Like, should I do this? Or it would tell you like whether your answer would be favorable to that or not. Can we do it live? So I do my sessions over a phone call or I do it online. I'm hoping to book a session for my birthday. I would love to work with you. I would seriously love to work with you. But yeah, like you don't have to book like only Akashic Records readings with me. You could hire me just to chat. I can look at your astrology birth chart and I can give you some analysis pointers, things that may help you understand yourself on a deeper level. My cat wants to say hi. I'm going to bring my cat up for a second. Oh, here she is. This is Missy. She's Missy the Menace. I have written music about this cat. The song is called Missy the Menace because she is a menace cat to her brother. Maybe not me so much, but she always gives me emotional support even if I don't totally need it. She needs emotional support sometimes too. So yeah, everybody, this is my cat. Oh, Missy. I adopted her from a feline rescue as an adult, so she's already a senior cat. Have you ever read your cat's records? I read one of my cats and it was fascinating. I have actually not been trained to do Akashic Records readings for cats because the system would not be the same for them. I would say, imagine, if you will, we're talking about Pandora and the Na'vi and Avatar, right? Those aliens. Aliens don't really have pets in the way that we have pets here on Earth. It's just really not like that. But in soul realignment, I've only been trained to do this work for human people. I have the Akashic Tarot deck by Sharon Ann Klinger. Do you know or use that deck? I haven't heard of it before, but I'm going to write that down because I want to look it up. Akashic Tarot. Yes, I am taking notes while I hold a cat. Akashic, Sharon Ann Klinger. Okay. Thank you. Ooh, you have the Thoth deck. I know that one, but I don't have that one. But I will tell you, the reason why I want to get the Oracle of Sachet is because it's all uses like the hieroglyphic words of power. And each one of those words of power has different numerological interpretations that I would just love to get into. Oh my gosh, this cat, she's being menace cat again, and I have to put her down. Okay, I'm sorry, baby. Another thing that I learned is that I may be able to, in the future, read the records of my ancestors who are long gone from hundreds of years ago. This is a good reason why somebody might want to learn about their ancestry and their history and, your direct ancestors. I've found over 3,400 direct ancestors of mine. So that's a really, really big cake right there. I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but I'm going to find out. And I'll tell you what, if you go far back enough in your own family's history, you'll realize nobody is perfect. We've all come from really, really dark history stuff. We've come from bad things, bad people, especially somebody who looks like me. See the color of my skin? I come from some bad people, okay? Bad people who've done bad things to other people for no good reason. And so I'm here to heal that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to heal my family, and I'm going to heal every person that wants to work with me and get soul level healing. So, all right, anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Y'all, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Let me know if you have questions. You can send me a message, or you can leave a comment on one of my videos, and I might make a video reply to it. And yes, we will do more. We will do more of this later. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Mwah. Mwah.